Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and I'm autistic. I have ADHD. I have a memory disorder called severely deficient autobiographical memory, and I have global aphantasia, which means that I don't experience any of the senses in my mind. And I have videos on all of these. So if you've been following me for a while, you may have noticed a couple of things. First, changing my user and channel name, and I'm going to talk about that later in the video. Second, you may have noticed that I've disappeared for the last month and a half, and I want to apologize for that. I did not mean to disappear on y'all. For the people who checked in on me, thank you so much. It was appreciated. I did not mean to take a break. It just turns out I needed to. And so I have been doing a lot of internal work, a lot of thinking and growing. My therapist says that my personal development has grown exponentially. Like you can see the little twinkles in her eyes. I teased her, I'm like, did I get an A+ in therapy today? She wanted to say, no, we don't do. She was like, yeah, you got an A+. So I've got so much that I have been working on that I'm really excited to come back and talk about. Normally I process out loud with you. This time I hit a burnout and I spiraled in. But don't worry, I took notes. So I don't really have a big announcement. I mean, other than, yes, I am changing my channel name. And again, that's something that I've kind of been thinking about for a while because I've felt this shift coming on. I didn't know how it was going to look. I did not know that the last video I posted, I wasn't going to come back for a month and a half. Like that is beyond my comprehension because I've been such a major presence on social media, not major, but for me, social media has been one of my special interests. And so I have been active on social media since like 2007 when I first started my first blog, which no longer exists. So don't go look for it. My format's not going to change. My videos aren't going to be louder or flashier or anything like that. But I am going to be returning with a different kind of presence. It's not louder. It's not flashier. It's just clearer. So I hit a burnout again. When you are autistic, burnouts can be big that take years to kind of work through. And sometimes there's ups and downs. I had a really big burnout in my 40s before I even got diagnosed. And that one took several years to kind of almost sort of start to heal from. And in that process, I got my diagnosis. This one, I feel like I'm finally coming out of it. And it's been, a little bit over a month and a half. And it was a bunch of things that just contributed. It was, politics in America finally got to me. And my mental health was suffering because I was following the 24 news cycle. And we have to take care of our mental health. Like you can't contribute if you aren't taking care of yourself first. And I thought I was balancing things, but I was on, websites and TikToks and it just was too much. It was too much. So I had to step away, and I will be coming back into politics, but I'm going to manage it in a different way. My videos are not political, so I'm not going to go on about that, but that was one of the contributors to my burnout. Dealing with anything to do with medical in America. My twins are ADHD, and between their medical needs, my medical needs, and then my husband breaking both of his arms at once, just all of that got really overwhelming for me. My last video was talking about his breaks. He's doing much better by now. He has his casts off and he's healing and he's just building up his strength now. But that took a lot of just energy and, to help him through that. He is a trooper. He didn't complain nearly as much as I thought he would. He did great healing. 2 broken arms at once, guys. It was bad. And then the last thing that contributed was I just had started to realize that social media was taking more from me than it was feeding me. And I was pouring so much time and energy into being on social media, and I wasn't getting a return that was fulfilling. And so I woke up one day and just didn't log on to social media, which again is like unheard of for me. I know a lot of people take breaks as needed. That's really good. For me, I've just been a constant presence. So for me to just log off and stay off for like over a month and a half is just like, it's unheard of for me. I've never done it before, but it felt really good. And I haven't really missed a lot of it. I've missed y'all in my comment sections. I've really, like, so many times I'm like, oh, I want to film a video. But when you're in that kind of burnout, I just couldn't. I was doing my best just to like maintain my friendships. I went into a monotropic state. If you don't know what that is, I have a video somewhere on the channel about it. It's where all of a sudden, all of your focus, if you're autistic, it just goes into like one narrow focus. And it's really hard to, take care of other aspects of your life. So I was journaling and writing, like I literally like was cramping my hands up. And just like so many things were churning and coming in and like converging in my brain. And I have been, another special interest has been personal development. And I have been going to personal development seminars since I was 13. And it's just like all of these concepts and things that I learned just started to like braid themselves together with an autistic lens or ADHD lens. And I'm just feeling really settled. I have so much good things to share. Like I said, normally like I process out loud, and that's kind of why this channel started. But this is the first time where when I had a burnout, instead of processing out loud, I spiraled inwards. And I didn't even have the words to explain what was going on. I didn't know. Like I could talk. Like, I'm not saying that I went to like an autistic nonverbal state, but I could not explain why all of a sudden I couldn't be on social media and I couldn't like explain all these things that were in my head. Which kind of leads me to like my next thing. So one of the things that I learned is that I like to think in metaphors, and I didn't know that. That's what's funny. Growing up with aphantasia and can't visualize, I always thought that I really wasn't good at writing metaphors in like English class. And I thought like deciphering other people's metaphors has always been kind of difficult for me. But what I am really good at is like kind of explaining things through a metaphor and like giving you the scaffolding and the framework to explain it. So I'm not just like throw a metaphor at you and walk away, but like talk about the metaphor and what it means for me. And that can sometimes help other people understand what's going on in my mind. And if the metaphor resonates with you, you can borrow it and use it to explain, maybe some of your thought processes. Every single autistic person is unique. We are not a monolith, but I do know from feedback from comments that a lot of people resonate with the way that I explain my autistic and ADHD brain. So the way that I tend to learn, that's what I kind of like came up with metaphor-wise, is that I'm like a volcano. Now, a lot of times in psychology, people think about volcanoes with anger. That's not what I'm talking about. Like, we're going to not think of it as anger, thinking about it as a learning process. So when I am like this whole last month and a half, I was what I was going to say, like I was simmering in the magma underneath the surface. I couldn't really explain anything for once. Like I couldn't get the words out. It was all just like churning and simmering under the magma. And then I would have an explosion, an eruption of an insight, and write it down. And then some more churning, and things are like, coming, and I would not even be writing in full sentences sometimes. And then it's just like this thought and this thought. And it is, like the meme with all the, except I couldn't see anything because I have aphantasia, when I don't visualize symbols and things in my head. But I felt like one of those like autistic people who's like seeing all the patterns, and then eruption, So the volcano metaphor was feeling very comfortable to me. So if you've ever had that like experience where you've got these thoughts stuck in your brain and you can't get them out, you're like, I know things, I'm thinking, or it's like, it's pre-verbal, it's in the thoughts, like it's coming, give me time and I will erupt my answer. You might be a volcano thinker. It also really ties in with a video called bottom up thinking. So a lot of autistic people are bottom up thinkers. So it's like you take all of the information that you can gather, and then you can like push it together and like have an eruption of a singular event. Most neurotypical or holistic people are top down thinkers. And so they start with a single idea, and then they work from there, and they add stuff in as they need to and adapt, and on the fly can change things, and like, oh, that one didn't work, swap this one in until they get to their solution. But like autistic people, we want all of the possibilities. We're looking out into the future. We're looking ahead. We want all the information we can, and then we like pattern sort it, and then here's your answer. It's very different processing styles. Okay, so one of the biggest insights that I had as an eruption this month and a half was kind of also, I was like, oh, okay, wow, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to be back on YouTube. So I have always related, again, it's a metaphor, related my brain to being like a computer. I've always felt very logic-based. I'm very artistic too, but I'm both, but I like to think in logic structures. So as soon as I got diagnosed and I learned what masking was, I could see my mask. Like I had no idea I was masking my entire life. But then once somebody said, hey, did you know that autistic women tend to mask their autism and show up in the world looking like they are neurotypical? I was like, oh, yeah, no, that resonates. That's what I've been doing. And so what I learned is that I think of my mask as like a computer program. So my brain's like this computer program. There's these filters. And every single input would go through these filters, shift down, and then I'll output a response. And my filters were, I had to be perfect, be a good little girl, put everyone's comfort ahead of my own. And then this month, I also realized that there was a fourth one that I was not aware of. And that was that if I overshare, then I'm giving my everything to people. And that way, if they're going to reject me, they're going to do it at the beginning because they now know everything about me. And oversharing in that way is actually typically a survival instinct. It's not necessarily coming from a healthy place. So before my diagnosis, I was always running mask.exe, like pretty much all the time, even for myself. I had no idea I was masking. Then over the last like 2.5, 2.5 years, as I've been working towards unmasking. And I will note that not everybody can unmask, and even people who are working towards unmasking can't always do it in every situation. One of the reasons why I make my videos is that I am coming from a place of privilege in the fact that I do have a support network and safety to unmask and talk about it publicly without really much persecution coming towards me. I don't work, so I'm not having to try to like save an image for my job, and my skin color. Unfortunately, a lot of people who are not white, they get treated very poorly if they unmask their autism. And that's why it's important for more information to be talked about. Autism needs more recognition. People need to be able to understand and spot what autism looks like. So that's one reason why I do these videos, for people hopefully who aren't autistic to learn more, but also for people who are autistic to maybe have words to explain to people why they're doing the things they're doing, if it resonates. Again, we are a spectrum. You may not relate to every single thing I say. And I do try to bring in other autistic perspectives when I can. So your mask may not be, be perfect, be a good little girl, prioritize others' comfort of your own, and overshare to be seen. But you might hear those words and go, oh my gosh, every single thing that I did was because of, this phrase. I was like the good girl kind of autism. But there's a lot of people who they tried to be maybe good children, but the adults in their life were constantly like picking on them and pushing on them. And so they said, screw it. No matter how hard I try, I can't win. So they just become like the kid, the rebel, or they take on a different role. Their mask is a different role. Mine was the good little girl. They might, be the class clown, or the rebel, or, those kinds of things. So, like I said, as I was unmasking, I went to mask.exe. And that's kind of like a bridge state. So if my nervous system feels safe, I could start to unmask. But if my nervous system feels like fight, flight, fawn, or freeze response, my mask might come back on just automatically. There's also something that I call code switching, and that's where you go into a situation, and as an autistic person, I know that if I want to get through this situation in the easiest way possible, I'm going to code switch, mask on purpose, to translate my autism into neurotypical people so that I can communicate and get what I need done. Autistic people tend to take the burden of learning how to speak neurotypical, because neurotypical people do not take the time to learn why an autistic person is saying or doing what they're doing. And unfortunately, there's a lot of autistic people who cannot explain why they're doing what they're doing because they just don't have that ability. So again, as I was like figuring out all these things, I realized that I have now moved from mask.exe to what I call create.exe, where I get to create the life that I want to live fully, with full self-expression. And it sounds like it's going to be a reflection of my mask, but it all has to do with like choosing and creating purposefully. So instead of being perfect, a lot of times I really like to be precise. Precision makes me happy. Like when I find the perfect vocabulary word, I can click it in. It makes me so happy. So, and like if someone's giving me instructions, I want them to be precise so I know what's going on and I can follow it. I like precision, and precision and perfectionism are not the same thing, but if you're masking, it can look a lot like that. But I value clarity and precision, but I'm not defined by being flawless. I can show up how I want and need to. And when I want precision, I can do it. And when I don't have the energy or the spoons or whatever reason, I can show up messy, right? I don't have to be perfect or flawless to survive anymore. The second one, be a good little girl. In create.exe, my new operating system, means that I get to live by ethically chosen values, boundaries, and morals. I get to choose instead of live by the ones that were inherited. So a lot of times, our culture tells a child that these are the things that you have to do to be good, and they may not be the things that align with that person. A lot of people who are not autistic can kind of filter those out as they grow up and go, yeah, my parents, believe that, or my, teacher wanted me to act that way, but that's not who I am. But because I was autistic, I took all of the things that society said that a good little girl in Texas growing up should be, and I made that my life. And for example, one of them was that good little girls don't curse. I believe that words have a lot of immense power, but they should not control me. I get to control words. Words don't have their own morals. It's how you use a word that gives it power. And I always thought that was just really, it was something that I always believed in, even when I was masking, but I could not curse because my mask said I had to be a good little girl. So I get to choose my ethics, values, boundaries, not the ones that were inherited and given to me. So much more powerful way to live. Number 3, prioritize other people's comfort ahead of your own. So I have pathological demand avoidance profile of autism, which means that my autonomy is like so important to me. If I don't have my own autonomy in things, it wears down my nervous system. So I can hold others. So the flip with create.exe is I can hold others with care when my autonomy is respected. That's what makes the care real. So if somebody needs my help and my mask is saying that I have to help them so that I put their comfort ahead of my own, then I am performing. I am not doing the nice thing because I want to. I'm doing it to survive the situation. But if I can do it with my autonomy intact by setting boundaries for myself, then I can choose when to care, and it becomes real. It comes from within. Like I want to help you now because I am also being respected. It's reciprocal. And the last one, again, this is the one that I just started to learn about myself, the oversharing. So this one's I'm still almost pre-verbal. I've erupted, but like it's still tricky for me to kind of like get it out of the way. But and it's also like, how does that look in the world? But I'm practicing it still. So I choose what to share, when to share, and why. Being loved does not require full transparency. I am worthy, whole, even in opacity. So it means that like a lot of times if I meet somebody, I like just open up all the way to them. And then later I'm like, oh, why did I say that? I probably shouldn't have said that. It was probably too much. But if I'm at create.exe, it's like, I'm worthy. They don't have to know everything about me. They can like discover as we kind of like grow together if we end up becoming friends. And when you hold your own self-worth inside you, then you don't need to prove it to other people to be accepted by them. So that was one of the big eruptions, insights that I've had over the last month and a half, and it was a big one. Does it mean that I'm always going to be living by create.exe? No, that's like when my nervous system is good and healthy, then I'm going to be thinking and like choosing how I show up in the world. When my nervous system, because I'm autistic, it's a disability. When my nervous system gets activated, mask.exe could probably pop on in an instant. So this isn't about create.exe being perfect. It's just a map for me to, choose to live by. Sorry, I'm looking down because I have my outline. So my channel started out as I Am Mind Blind. And that was because when I started the channel, I didn't know I was autistic and ADHD at first. If you go back to the very first video, it's talking about aphantasia. There wasn't many videos online about aphantasia or SDAM, severely deficient autobiographical memory. And so I thought I would put up a couple of videos about that, just talking from my experience. I didn't think I'd have that many. I would make more videos on that, but a lot of times it's hard to talk about what you don't remember. It's easier to talk about memories than things you don't remember. But about a month into my channel, I started to, I was getting my kids diagnosed, and I started to realize that, oh my gosh, I might be autistic also. So I thought about it, and I was like, well, there might be other people who are going through this. So I'll just talk about, and, what it feels like to wonder if you're late diagnosed autistic when you've had no idea your entire life and you're 42 at that time. And then I'll just keep posting and see what happens. And here we are today. But I've kind of outgrown I Am Mind Blind. It just doesn't feel like it fits anymore. And so for a while, I knew I wanted a new username, but I didn't know what it was going to be. And again, with create.exe, I want to intentionally create my space. And I Am Mind Blind just doesn't, it's not a bad username. It just doesn't feel like who I am anymore. So that's where I got EchoesWithoutOrigin. And I'm going to explain a little bit about where that came from. So for a long time, I lived by scripts, by echoes written by others, but those weren't mine. When I took the mask off, there was no origin self waiting underneath. I had to become the voice I now echo. I am not a return. I am a creation. So because of growing up with SDAM and not having autobiographical episodic memory and growing up completely masked, I live in the moment, and who I am right now in this moment, it is patterned from, all my previous moments, but I don't remember them. So I feel like I'm an echo living in space that doesn't have an origin point. I know a lot of people aren't going to get my username, but it feels just really right for me. So I'm excited to have my channel be called Echoes Without Origin. The name Echoes Without Origin has been echoing through me for a while now. It holds something important. I don't come from where people expect, and neither do my thoughts. But I speak in a way that does seem to resonate, especially with other neurodivergent people that are trying to find their own voice and shape in the world. I'm not claiming answers, and I'm not claiming universality. All autistic people, ADHD people, we're all different. But if something I say helps unlock a stuck idea that gives you a new lens to look through, that will be enough. Thank you guys for still being here. Thank you for being patient with me while I was gone. Let's keep building clarity together. And I will see you on the next video.